we take the $41,000 number that we started with. The value of the system is $22,000, so half of that is fixed. The balance, the other half, the kind of things that would vary that cost would be increase in salaries, increase in power, increase in chemicals. I don't know that you're going to see much of a decrease from the numbers that we were getting. If you look at the sheet in here where we compared the auditor's preliminary findings, where did it go?
Last page, Johnny.
Last page. That number wasn't too far off what our number was. I think it was 100 and, where did it go, 190 somewhere, did I see? It was very close to what we were shooting for. 279, and then I took 106 of depreciation out of that, so it came to 173, and I think our total for O&M was $19,000. Well, that was their share. 305, but you got to take 106 out again, so that's 199. But we only operated the plant a part of the year, so I don't think that we're. It makes sense logically as to what I have here.
Okay. Then the other question would be, just because there will be people, residents of this city, that evaluate the deal that is struck as to being fair to them versus did the council give something away that then they hold these folks responsible for it. So,
well, I got a call about selling water cheaper to them than we're selling it to.
And that's why I think we need to have something that you can defend and say this is reasonable. How do we look at that? And
I would refer you to this sheet here. If you get to the point where you're 100%, let's see. There we go. A city resident would pay $32.09. At 100%, we're asking the village resident to pay $32.76.
Does that take into account some of their no.
That's just the cost for that.
Right.
Okay.
Any costs they would have in operating their system would add to that.
So if we ended up with this 100% deal, we could fairly honestly say to them, they got water from this system at the same rate cost you did.
Pretty close, yeah. There's a bunch of intricacies in how it's calculated.
Sure. In
that they're paying a little more for their distribution system, for flushing and for maintenance than the village people are, but the village people aren't using the whole system. They're only using the corridor. But I think it's within reasonableness.
Okay. Council's pleasure.
I'd like to give us some leeway, so I'm going to go with what your statement is saying, that we have room for negotiation if they come back and say, well, whatever those figures are.
The problem is you're sitting in a public meeting and you don't control what leaves here. You only control what you send somebody out with, and I think if they have an interest in getting this done quickly, there will be a fast response. And I think then those that are doing that come back to this council, be it May 3rd or whenever, and say, here's where we're at. How do you feel about that now? And take it from there. I see no other way to do it unless you find a way to close this meeting so you can have that private conversation. I think you need to trust whoever goes to do the negotiations, and if you're going to follow the pattern you did before, that was these two.
I think I'd just soon go with 95%. And we've accommodated part of their 50% reduction in the O&M.
Is that allowing for any leeway or whatever? 5%?
Well, percentage, the 37 is effective 41, so I don't know what that is, but, I think that would be the bottom. And all they gotta do is do their math, when they get our number, and they can do the multiplication of what the bond is gonna cost them, and,
It either works or it doesn't.
yes,
Exactly.
It's always gonna be too expensive.
well, if it's cheaper for them to build their water treatment plant, then that's what they should do, I guess.
Well, I think the additional offer should be 100%. I'd rather start there.
I'm not opposed to that.
Do we have a motion?
It would be nice to sell them water because of the advantages
Mhm.
that you outlined, and it puts money into the water fund.
I would even suggest, I suppose we could close the meeting for negotiations.
But that would be when they would come to us to negotiate.
I don't know, if they would, but at least if we get them some kind of response, I think we start this process and it'll happen rather
Yeah,
rapidly.
we told them we'd get them a number.
So we started a while ago with sort of like a motion to say direct staff to prepare a resolution that proposes to sell not to exceed amount of gallons of water to the village at a cost to be calculated as per the engineer's study and updated every year, using 100%, as outlined in his report, 100% of, what do you call it, what did you call it?
The real-
Real
Distribution,
cost.
yeah, the real cost,
real
real value
cost.
cost.
100% real cost, as outlined in the engineer's study. That would be the initial offer then.
Plus, they've got to do all the costs from the hydrant or wherever we put in the backflow meter, they have to absorb all the costs of getting it to their system.
Including the provision of a backflow preventer and a
Right.
meter pit.
And we're not gonna meet in the middle of the,
Is that even possible?
Impractical. There we go.
Yeah. Do we have a motion?
Did you say 95%?
well, I've just I didn't make a motion, I was just expressing an opinion there. The mayor thinks it'll be 100%.
Well, you're gonna start at 100, you're gonna be at a different number soon. But at least you give the committee the ability to come back to you with something, knowing they didn't get maybe to that number right away. They started somewhere where they felt comfortable.
If we start at 90, it'll be 80 that they're gonna want, so let's start at 100 and see where we end up.
You gonna make that a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Just because it is a public meeting, and because they know that we are doing this, and we know they're gonna come back with a counter offer, I would be inclined to say, here's 95%, take it or leave it. This is the number. If you don't want our water, build your own plant. To heck with the game.